This is fun. All right. So, what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about the experience. We're going to talk about life. Um, my name is Sandy Pajaro Trieros, and I work in corporate America. And it's a crazy world right now. January feels like it's been a long time. I think I'm on here today because I wonder what inaction is. And I sit and think about what inaction is, and I think about what action is, and what embodiment and disembodiment is. And I can't sit around and do nothing. Not when, not with the climate that we're in. So I'm on here to talk and share my thoughts, and maybe somebody at some point will benefit from a story. Um, I think today I'm going to talk about suffering because I feel like there's always suffering to some extent in the world. And I feel like all we're ever trying to do is get out of suffering. Less suffering, numb suffer go into numbing from suffering or escapism. And so no one really ever explains to us why we suffer. They just tell us to feel better a lot of times, I think. Even when we're kids, they just tell us to stop crying or to think about something else, or they try to distract us, or they try to keep us in the shadows, meaning they try to just not expose us to suffering. But I'm not sure that's the answer either, because then your soul ends up not understanding that side of you as much as it should. And I think that also creates adults that live their life in distraction mode. And there's distraction in all ends of the spectrum. There's distraction, whether it's from alcohol, or there's distraction in the quote unquote good world of excessive meditation, excessive exercising, and it's almost all all a sort of numbing when something is done to an extreme extent. Or you could also compare it to like fawning, fight, and freeze, obsessiveness, fawning, numbing, freezing, fighting, again, excessive. So, how do we balance our suffering with understanding that, or being observant and aware of how we're trying to cope with it? I think as adults, it's going to take a lot of relearning. As kids, or how we can help kids do better with suffering, well, it's going to take embodiment. So it's still going to take relearning on the adult side. But as children and as a new world sees us embody how we move through suffering and how we deal with suffering, then we can then help a new world be created. So I think something that a lot of us did not hear as kids is that we suffer to learn. One, we suffer to learn because more often than not, humans do not learn in comfort. And that is because to us, comfort is safety. But it makes sense if we think about it. Survival is safety. And why would we go outside of our comfort if it means we're going to die? But what if it meant we're going to live more than we have ever lived before? What if understanding your suffering and understanding the other side of you meant that you were going to live deeper? Then I think we wouldn't fear it from the get go as much. And instead of running and instead of numbing, instead of over consuming or the escapism, we would get curious and we would ask and befriend our suffering. Hi, sadness. What are you here to teach me? Hi, anger. Why are you here today? Hi, loneliness. Where did I learn this feeling from? I do think suffering is a tool if we understand that it's a tool and not just a feeling. It's an empowering tool when we are empowered as individuals, but it is also a disempowering tool. And people that are disempowered will disempower others through suffering. And we see that a lot in war because a disempowered person can only disempower until they understand that that is what they are doing, and they may never understand. Another reason why we suffer is when we are not in our path. And what I mean by that is that we are not in our soul truth. And to understand what soul truth is, we need to understand what soul is and what truth is. And our soul is what we have always been. And there are many parts to our soul. We in our own being, you in your own being have a soul. Sandy, my name is Sandy, I have a soul. But my soul is also part of a greater consciousness. And that consciousness embodies my race because race also has a soul. It embodies my frequency as I change it and as I expand it. And that in itself is another conscious soul. There's also souls in not gender, in gender. Different genders also are part of a soul conscience. And so there's soul, and so soul kind of befriends truth because soul always wants to live in truth. Any time that soul is not living in truth, it chooses to suffer. And what I mean by chooses to suffer is that our soul, before we even came to this earth, decided which lessons it was going to tackle during your short lifetime. And then it chose events, people, circumstances, surroundings, or inner past experiences. So we also take stuff from our past that we would carry forward, or also a lot of times something in our future is pulling us forward because we're all entangled in the same soul, as in a soul is infinite, so it doesn't know time or space. But for the human mind, we said during this lifetime, I'm going to learn about this and this and this and this through this, this and this and this. So then what happened was that we came and now we're learning. And so when we are not in our truth of what our soul decided, we can befriend the suffering by knowing that that lesson was chosen before we came, but it's also a lesson that takes us where we're going. It takes us where we're going because our future self is wanting us to expand for our future lifetimes or our future partner or our future calling. And it's always preparing you and it's always in your best interest. It could also be that you have decided to carry something from your past into this lifetime because perhaps you didn't unveil the full truth. And now in this lifetime, you have chosen to unfold the full truth of the lesson that we needed to learn. It could be ancestral. Maybe you decided to actually take it on for your family lineage, for your soul's higher conscience. Maybe it's a race lineage, because perhaps in the past, it was not the time to be able to resolve it. And so now your soul chose to resolve it within this lifetime. So as you navigate your soul and as you navigate what truth is, together, soul and truth are working side by side because it is like your hands when they are together, creating a oneness of frequency within your body. But as soon as soul or truth are out of alignment, all they're doing is creating suffering for you to come back to oneness, to truth, to learn any lesson. And I think even as we're going through this really hard time right now, we can befriend suffering in a way that empowers us versus disempowers us. And I love what my friend Alexis said to me today. In a way, we spoke about how it's the intention that we root into before an action or a feeling. Even as we're feeling, though, it can be very hard to think above the feelings, especially right now. And to the extent that we can, when so much is going on, it's even more important to slow down, no matter how hard it is. Because trying to speed up during times when there is so much changing may make it harder for you to be able to move one through lessons and suffering, but it may also push you into suffering that is not yours or ours or mine. And ultimately, I want this message to feel empowering to anyone that ever finds this, whether it's one person or none. And if I do continue these lives, that'll always be my goal, is to empower and to unite versus divide, because that is all there ever was. Truth and oneness is all there ever is. There is no sides. Soul does not know gender. Soul does not know race. Soul does not know land. Soul knows frequency. Soul knows love. And soul knows truth. And with that, I think I am done speaking. I actually am surprised I even continued with this live. I was just trying to figure out if I could go live yet because before YouTube would not allow me to. I finally lived by myself for the first time, and I am 30 years old, and I have never lived by myself, but it doesn't feel as weird as I thought it would. And I think it's just because my soul was ready for this adventure. And so, to the extent that I can, now that I have the space to, I am able to just speak freely and sing freely and move freely. And so, I hope that I continue to feel inspired to speak freely like this and share whatever soul truth is coming from my soul to be shared with the world. Um, I hope you laugh today or find something funny. I love laughing. And I hope that if you feel really unsettled right now, don't lose hope. That is what disempowered people want you to feel, want us to feel. But where there is love, there's always hope. And in your heart, you can always find love. You can always find love wherever you are if you tune into it. Because all you have to do is connect to your soul. With that, I leave you